Hello lovely humans, welcome to the space on the internet. We're back. So, we call ourselves partners in crime because we probably want to live together in the future. We're pretty close in a way that most people think when they see us that we're in a romantic relationship, but we are not in a romantic relationship.
No Romo!
And will likely never be, largely due to the fact that we are both very aromantic, meaning we do not feel romantic attraction towards other people. And for us, that also means that we do not desire romantic relationships at all. And there's a name for this. It's called a queer-platonic relationship.
Woo! Side note, this will be a largely informational video. If you want a video about our experience with QPRs, or more personal opinions on the significance of QPRs, or information on our QPR, let us know.
So, what is a queer-platonic relationship?
A queer-platonic relationship, or QPR, is a relationship that is considered more intimate and thus different from a friendship, but also does not fit the definition or standard of a romantic relationship.
It's a relationship type that fits somewhere between romantic and platonic. It does not uphold the typical structure of either of these relationship types.
QPRs are basically a big fuck you to the phrase, just friends.
QPRs may involve varying levels of physical and emotional intimacy, often associated with romantic and sexual relationships, and may partake in various romantic-coded activities, such as kissing, living together, financial codependence, mutual love and trust, having sex, having children. But despite all of these romantic-coded activities, these relationships are not romantic by nature.
So, some people may feel an active drive to be in queer-platonic relationships, or this is called queer-platonic attraction, and others may find themselves part of them without it having been a determined goal of theirs, or without it being specifically sought out. Sometimes it's just how it goes.
So, who are queer-platonic relationships for? Good news, buddy! They're for you. Because QPRs can involve levels of physical and emotional intimacy without being romantic by nature, that makes them a very popular option in the aromantic community. This allows aromantic people very close relationships that fulfill their longing for emotional closeness or physical closeness, or any other sort of thing, without causing them discomfort with regards to their aromanticism and lack of attraction romantically for other humans. They then don't need to be in a romantic relationship to fulfill any desire for intimacy and closeness that they may have.
But anyone can have a queer-platonic relationship. Like, QPRs can coexist alongside romantic and sexual relationships. You can also have multiple queer-platonic relationships in the exact same way you can have multiple friendships or multiple romantic or sexual relationships. Which means that you can be, in essence, polyamorous or monogamous with QPRs. Side note, every QPR will be different in the same way friendships and romantic relationships are all different. However, in the case of QPRs, I would argue that due to their non-normative nature, they have the potential to be even greater in variation. So, in the case of queer-platonic polyamory, these relationships may look very different from one to the next. Queer-platonic relationships can involve any combination of genders as well. Someone may or may not have a preference with whom or for which gender they would desire a queer-platonic relationship with.
For example, I consider myself a pan-oriented aro-ace. I'll make a whole video on it if you want it. But basically, for me, this translates to not having a preference for a gender, like when it comes to establishing queer-platonic relationships. I don't know, all the guys, gals, non-binary humans, agender humans, you know? All of them.
Frying pans?
No.
Despite the prefix queer, these relationships are not necessarily limited to people who identify as queer. However, this is a little bit controversial, seeing as the word queer has been recently reclaimed by the 2S LGBTQIA community, because it's also been used against them in the past. So, some people will argue that the term queer-platonic should not be used in reference to cis-het people, but the queer in queer-platonic actually is used to describe the unconventional natures of QPR rather than the sexuality and gender of those involved. It's like queer as in something non-normative, not queer as in something a little fruity.
We don't really have any personal opinions on the matter. You will not be offending us if you use queer-platonic, even if you're cisgender and heterosexual. And this is because queerness and the queer community encompasses elements of relationship anarchy and non-normative relationship types. So queer-platonic is queer. That is what it is. It's queer. It's not what you would typically expect. So even though it's not gay necessarily, it's still queer because it's not abiding by amatonormative standards.
Exactly.
So, if you want to call yourself queer-platonic, do it.
Go for it.
Finding a queer-platonic relationship, how do you do it?
The thing about QPRs is that they're non-normative, so there's no standard way of going about finding one or having one, unlike dating in the case of romantic or sexual relationships.
So depending on who you are and the people you're around and your life circumstances, you may be able to establish a QPR through, let's say, developing pre-existing friendships into QPRs, finding new friendships to evolve into QPRs. You can date queer-platonically. Do make sure you communicate this with the person you're trying to date. Just make sure you're not having conflicting desires there. You could probably use dating apps to find other queer-platonic seeking humans. Or if you're aromantic, looking around in your community for other aromantic humans who are in a similar situation as yourself and looking for a QPR mate. So basically what I'm saying is there's no right way to form a QPR. You can get one, however. Living queer-platonic.
How do you do it?
As an unconventional relationship type, queer-platonic relationships can prove quite difficult to explain to people. That is a lie. They are not difficult to explain. We explained it in the first 10 seconds of this video when we said it's not romantic, it's not platonic, it's somewhere in between and different. That's it. That's all a queer-platonic relationship is. However, because amatonormativity is so ingrained in our Western society, people may not be receptive to hearing about what queer-platonic means for you in your relationship and may not accept queer-platonic relationships as valid relationships. And this can look like being brushed off as being just really good friends, or being seen as if eventually you'll just become romantic, you're just not admitting that you're into this person romantically, which is not the case. I mean, it could be. That could be your journey. You go from queer-platonic to romantic, but being in a romantic relationship is not the end goal of everything, sorry.
One important thing to remember is that you do not owe anybody an explanation when it comes to the nature of your relationship with somebody. It's not your responsibility to make your relationship make sense to random people. However, we also really do understand the isolation that comes from not feeling understood by others, and it can be particularly hard if it's with your close friends or family, which it often is. Some queer-platonic pairings do not mind posing as romantic couples in order to bypass judgment from others, which can work very well, and you might do it if you just feel it's not worth explaining, though it is kind of sad to have to succumb to the shackles. But also very understandable. However, hopefully the lack of acceptance for QPRs will not bar you or anyone else from building a queer-platonic relationship if that's what you want. Because queer-platonic relationships are fucking awesome. They are a freeing thing to learn about for many people, aromantics in particular, because they don't give, they give a name to the idea of non-normative relationships that do not fit within the binds and shackles of platonicism and romantic relationships. Though, also those are very valid relationships. We just like to be dramatic.
As people in QPRs, we get to build our own relationships based on our personal goals, our chemistry with people, our personalities, physicality, our feelings. There's no limits on what a QPR looks like, and we get to make it what we want. So I like to think of QPRs like going to those awesome frozen yogurt bars where you get to dispense your own flavor. There's a wall and you can I want some half chocolate, half mango here.
Yeah.
And then you go to the topping bar and it's just an infinity of different frozen yogurt toppings. That's a QPR. You can throw in anything you want there.
Want a minty mango pistachio chocolate banana split supreme.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want. Yeah, so that's sort of our main message, is that queer-platonic relationships are really cool because they're non-normative and because they're not amatonormative, because they're weird.
They challenge standards that don't make sense, so not only are they great for people who just want to figure something out that they like, but also it's pretty awesome.
Great for autistic people.
Yeah, that too.
Who don't understand.
If you're neurodivergent, it might be very appealing, because when so many relationships are socially and neurotypically grounded, it can be hard to partake in them in the same way that you're expected to. So, QPRs might just be right for you.
Thank you for watching this video. Comment down below if you have any experiences with queer-platonic relationships, have questions about them, anything.
Yeah.
Tell us about yourself. QPRs. Yo. Bye.
Bye.